The skies over El Alamein erupted in January 1942. Squadron leader Nicky Barr, already an ace with 8 confirmed victories, led his P-40 Kittyhawk into the fray. Known as Old Nick, a nod to the devil himself for his daring tactics, Barr had built a fearsome reputation among friend and foe alike. Barr's keen eye spotted an enemy fighter as Allied bombers pressed toward their target. In a heartbeat, his machine guns blazed to life, sending another German fighter plummeting to the desert below. Suddenly, Barr witnessed one of his squadron mates spiraling toward the unforgiving desert. Without hesitation, he dove to protect his fallen comrade. 2 Italian fighters appeared, challenging the Australian ace. Barr's Kittyhawk danced through the sky, accurately claiming a second victory of the day. But as Barr descended to attempt a daring rescue, 2 Messerschmitts swooped down, intent on ending his mission. In a furious dogfight, Barr managed to blast one from the sky. Before he could celebrate, 2 more German fighters joined the battle. Enemy fire found its mark, setting Barr's aircraft ablaze and wounding him. Despite his injuries and the barrage of bullets tearing through his Kittyhawk, Barr wrestled with the controls of his battered fighter. As the vast, desolate landscape rushed up to meet him, he braced for a violent crash landing. Even if he survived, the merciless, enemy-riddled desert stretched endlessly below. Andrew William Nicky Barr's journey to becoming a Royal Australian Air Force fighter ace began far from the cockpit. Born on December 10, 1915, in Wellington, New Zealand, Barr moved to Australia with his family at the age of 6. Excelling in rugby and other sports during his youth, Barr developed the physical prowess and leadership skills that would serve him well in his military career. In 1939, his athletic achievements culminated in his selection for the Australian national rugby team to play in the United Kingdom. However, fate intervened. The tour was cancelled just a day after Barr's arrival due to the outbreak of World War II. Undeterred, Barr immediately attempted to join the Royal Air Force. His enthusiasm was dampened when told he would likely be assigned to a desk job, with little prospect of flying anytime soon. Refusing to settle, Barr returned to Australia, determined to find a path that would satisfy his thirst for action and allow him to contribute to the war effort. In March 1940, he enlisted as an air cadet in the Royal Australian Air Force. The situation in Europe had grown dire. Poland, Denmark, and Norway had fallen, and Belgium, France, and the United Kingdom were next. Barr's natural aptitude for flying soon became apparent as he progressed through training on various aircraft, including Tiger Mods, Hawker Demons, and Avro Ansons. His burning desire to become a fighter pilot manifested in unconventional ways. His rebellious nature led him to deliberately underperform during bombing practice, a cheeky strategy that reflected his singular focus on combat aircraft. These antics earned him the nickname Old Nick, derived from the British slang for the devil, a fitting moniker for his mischievous and daring behavior during training. On September 24, 1940, Barr's persistence paid off as he was commissioned as a pilot officer. By November, he found himself flying CAC Wirraways with No. 23 Squadron, patrolling the Queensland coast. Despite the Wirraway's limitations as a fighter, Barr later acknowledged the value of this extensive flight experience in preparing him for future combat. Beyond his flying duties, Barr showcased his leadership as the RAAF rugby team's captain, and in his role as aide-de-camp to Governor Sir Leslie Wilson. On March 24, 1941, Barr's career took another step forward. This advancement brought him closer to the combat role he so desperately sought. As he honed his skills in Australia, the unforgiving skies of North Africa awaited Barr's arrival. Old Nick's wishes to see combat came true in September 1941 when he joined No. 3 Squadron, part of the Desert Air Force, commanded by Australian ace Peter Jeffrey. Nick's old aircraft was upgraded to the American single-engine, single-seat, all-metal fighter, the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, armed with 6 M2 Browning machine guns and a bomb load of 2,000 pounds. The Warhawk was a welcome upgrade to Allied troops, given the state of the war in Africa. The Africa Corps, led by the Desert Fox, General Erwin Rommel, had been pushing the Commonwealth forces back to the Egyptian border, and they were desperate to stop the audacious Germans and their Italian allies. Luftwaffe personnel in Africa were flying devastating sorties with the ruthlessly effective Messerschmitt Bf-109 and the Messerschmitt Bf-110 fighter bomber. But good old Nick was not afraid. On the contrary, he was eager to take off and knock out any Axis aircraft he could find. Before departing for his first mission, Old Nick and all his peers were given a piece of paper that read in Arabic, quote, "Don't kill the bearer. Feed him and protect him. Take him to the English and you will be rewarded. Peace be upon you." It was an ominous message of the harsh combat conditions of the North African theater, and more importantly, the brutality of the desert and its native people. On December 12th, the pilots of 3rd Squadron flew their first mission over North Africa. Old Nick claimed his first aerial victory during the mission, downing a Messerschmitt Bf-110 in a dogfight that lasted over 2 minutes. Barr's skills were again on full display the very next day. He engaged and destroyed a Junkers Ju-88 and a Messerschmitt Bf-109 through intense air maneuvers to avoid their fire, showcasing his ability to handle different enemy aircraft. As 1942 loomed on the horizon, Barr found himself at the controls of the newly acquired P-40 Kittyhawk. Using this new aircraft, Old Nick shot down 2 Junkers Ju-87 Stukas, bringing his total to 5 confirmed victories on New Year's Day. With this feat, he officially became an ace, instantly joining the ranks of the most skilled Allied pilots of North Africa. It was clear to the veteran Australian pilots that Barr was a natural and had a long road ahead to claim more trophies. Old Nick kept flying during the following days, claiming other Axis aircraft, until the enemy shot down 1 Allied pilot on January 11th, 1942, when his unit of Kittyhawks was escorting bombers bound to strike El Alamein under German control. Enemy flak fire engulfed the sky, tearing bombers and fighters apart. Despite the danger around him, Old Nick turned back over the skies from El Agheila on from Benghazi to land in the desert and rescue his colleague. He left the safety of the Allied formation without hesitating and rushed toward the crash of the downed pilot. But he was not alone. 2 enemy fighters were behind him. He swiftly engaged the 2 Italian aircraft, destroying one with 2 precise machine gun bursts. Spotting a Messerschmitt that had just downed another of his squadron mates, Barr pivoted to engage, ultimately destroying the German fighter after striking it from the rear. Barr exhaled in relief after the lethal encounter and descended to attempt the rescue of his fallen comrade. But the skirmish was not over yet. 2 Messerschmitts closed in out of nowhere. Barr's situation seemed dire, with his landing gear partially extended and his guns jammed. Yet, his exceptional flying skills allowed him to outmaneuver his attackers. In a stunning display of aerial prowess and resourcefulness, he managed to clear his guns and destroy one of the Germans in a mid-air explosion. But the Australian ace was outnumbered. 2 additional Messerschmitts joined the fray, overwhelming Barr's Kittyhawk. Enemy fire found its mark, setting his aircraft ablaze and wounding him. Despite his injuries, Barr fought to control his burning aircraft as he plummeted toward the desert below. After crash landing, Old Nick sought cover behind his P-40's wings to avoid giving the enemy a chance to finish the job. The athletic pilot was now alone in the desert, miles away from his fallen comrade and the closest command post. There was no other way but to venture into the desert and pray to God he would stumble upon Allied troops or friendly natives. Old Nick gathered his few supplies, checked his jacket, and ensured he had the Arabic letter he was given to ensure his survival. Barr wandered the desert for 3 days, evading several German and Italian patrols looking out for him. He was deep in enemy territory, and supplies ran short quickly. But the cunning Australian made the most of his journey on the enemy's home turf and gathered intelligence on enemy positions and troop strengths as he made his way to friendly lines. During his last day in the desert, local Arabs, sympathetic to his troubles, provided him with food, robes, and a camel to aid in his escape. Upon his return to Allied lines, Barr delivered the information gathered to the intelligence. Thanks to this and his heroic actions over El Agilia, which resulted in 3 confirmed shootdowns, Barr was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. Old Nick had now destroyed 8 enemy aircraft, 6 fighters and 2 bombers, and there were more to come. After recovering from his wounds, Old Nick returned to the game with the same combat philosophy he had used before. During a later interview with Tony Stevens from The Telegraph, he would say, quote, "The Tomahawk and Kittyhawk were not considered by us to be top fighter aircraft. I decided early on that any deficiency either type had could be offset by unbridled aggression. I'd done some boxing and beaten better opponents by simply going for them, so I decided to use this tactic in the air. It paid off." The skies over Tobruk erupted in early March 1942 as Old Nick led 6 Kittyhawks against a raid of Luftwaffe Ju-87s and Italian Macchi C-202s. Employing his trademark aggressive strategy, Barr charged headlong into the fray. The ensuing dogfight was brief but ferocious. When the dust settled, Old Nick had claimed an Italian aircraft, while his squadron mates had dispatched 9 enemy fighters without suffering a single loss. Barr's audacious tactics and growing tally of victories, 13 aircraft confirmed, with 8 damaged and 2 probable, catapulted him to the top of 3rd Squadron's scoreboard. His prowess in the air earned him a promotion to flight lieutenant on April 1, 1942. But the unforgiving desert had more trials in store for the Australian ace. On May 25th, while patrolling over the sun-baked North African landscape, Old Nick's aircraft suddenly betrayed him. The engine overheated, forcing an emergency landing in enemy territory. As Barr inspected his ailing fighter, his heart nearly stopped. Enemy tanks loomed on the horizon. In a display of quick thinking and nerves of steel, he gunned the engine and took off, the exposed machinery roaring in protest as he raced back to friendly lines, narrowly evading the tank's sights. Fortune, however, is a fickle friend in war. Mere days later, on May 30th, Barr was embroiled in a desperate battle against 8 Messerschmitt Bf-109s. Old Nick managed to send 1 enemy fighter pilot plummeting to Earth before his luck ran out. Battle damage took its toll, and smoke began trailing from his aircraft. Wrestling with his stricken plane, Barr executed a high-speed crash landing in the desolate no-man's land below. As the dust settled, the full horror of his situation became clear. He had landed in a minefield, surrounded by hidden explosives. To compound his predicament, a fierce tank battle raged nearby. Immobilized and exposed, Old Nick could only watch helplessly as troops from both sides converged on his position. Almost miraculously, British forces reached him first, and soon enough, Barr was back in action. In early June 1942, Old Nick knocked out more enemy aircraft before disaster struck on the 26th. During a dogfight, Barr's Kittyhawk was attacked by 2 Messerschmitt Bf-109s. With his plane engulfed in flames, Barr was forced to bail out into occupied territory. Italian soldiers captured the wounded pilot, first taking him to Tobruk and then transferring him to Italy for medical treatment. Despite his captivity, Barr's courage did not go unrecognized. On February 5, 1943, he received a bar to his Distinguished Flying Cross for his continued success in destroying enemy aircraft. Thus, he was now a prisoner after 84 successful sorties, and recovery awaited him so that he could plan his escape. Old Nick's daring spirit persisted even in captivity. As 1942 drew to a close, he orchestrated a breakout from his confinement in a Bergamo hospital deep in northern Italy. He made his way to the Swiss border, where he knocked out a customs agent but was recaptured and sent to the Gavi prison camp, Genoa. As September 1943 approached, all POWs were relocated to Germany via train, allowing Old Nick a new option to escape. The Australian ace jumped from the moving train and went south to meet with Italian partisans. But he was captured once more and relocated to the Austrian border. Old Nick was a force of nature and once again escaped with 14 prisoners after tunneling under the camp's barbed wire. In March 1944, the Australian ace eventually met with an Allied Special Operations Group gathering intelligence behind enemy lines. With their help, Barr made it to Allied lines with 10 other prisoners, earning him the Military Cross for exceptional courage in organizing escapes. Old Nick returned to Britain in April 1944, and as expected, returned to protect the skies as the Allied troops landed in Normandy in June 1944. The North African ace joined an air support control unit and flew rocket-armed Hawker Typhoons to destroy B-1 flying bomb launch sites across France. Following the occupation of France in late 1944, Old Nick returned to Australia to become a flight instructor for recruits and was discharged from the Air Force with honors in October 1944.